Hey, so I wanted to talk about some of the things that exceeded my expectations when I started playing WoW on the Steam Deck, and what over the past month or so has really blown me away about this game on the Steam Deck as opposed to playing on PC. So I've broken it down into my three favorite features that uh, are unique to the Steam Deck that you don't have on PC, and yeah, so this video is going to be sort of a highlight of those things. So let's get right into it. Let me actually unplug my power cable. Okay, that didn't work right. Okay, so the number three is the performance. So you know, WoW was not the first game that I installed on the Steam Deck, and I really didn't have a lot of high hopes as to how well it would perform or if it would even work at all. And I'm absolutely blown away. So, just right off the bat, the battery life while playing WoW, and this is me running it at 60 frames on my desktop monitor, right? Because I'm recording this video. Normally it's at 800p in and 45 frames locked. And I'm getting like close to 5 hours now. If you don't have a Steam Deck already, that's an extraordinarily good battery life. Games like Control, which is high, that's a very modern graphical game. They get an hour and 45 to maybe 2 hours if you really, really optimize the settings. And some games that aren't even that new and don't look that great run like crap. So like Torchlight 2, which is an old ARPG, is like an hour and 45 minutes at very low settings. Dying Light is 90 minutes. That's not a very new game. I think this is even stronger than Dota, which is a first party Valve game that could be optimized to run on anything, and they are very incentivized to have that game perform well on the Steam Deck. This outperforms it. I think it was like, I've uninstalled it now, but it was like 3 hours or 3.5 hours, and this is 4 to 5 hours of battery life with no frame drops. And this is me running Mythic Plus. I haven't done a raid yet. You could absolutely raid on this thing, doing real content on it, and the frame rate and the performance is very good. Like, let's start killing some stuff. Whoops, I just wasted my demon spikes. That's probably not the best display of skill. Don't judge me. I'm getting sucked into something. But I'm not dropping any frames at all. I am in combat right now. I'm in combat with three things. There's a whole bunch of crap going on the screen. Where's my sigil? I guess I somehow got rid of my sigil. Oh, there it is. Sorry, I haven't played this guy in a bit. But yeah, I mean, this is running very well, and it never runs poorly. It always runs well. I've done no content that runs badly. The only time it ever dips is in Valdrakken, where there's a bunch of people around, and that's just that happens on my 3060 Ti on my desktop, just because there's a ton of people. But like dragon riding, this is like a high frame deal. Let's see if I can remember how to zoom out. Whoops, that's not how you do that. Let's zoom in, zoom out. So dragon riding, it looks awesome. Like, this is really cool in my opinion. This is on low settings, like 1 or 2 on the graphics settings, just because it's indistinguishable when you're playing in handheld mode. It looks great. That you can even turn it, like, you can update the draw distance so things don't pop in like that, and the battery life stays relatively the same. I think I messed around with it. So here it says 3.5 hours. I think that really has a lot to do with the fact that I'm running at 60 frames instead of 45. And I'm kind of like a picky gamer. I have a 144 hertz monitor. I really care about it being high frame rate, and 45 frames on this screen, like, I cannot. It doesn't seem bad. 30 frames did seem bad. I did not like 30 frames, but 45 frames, it was great. So here we are at 4 hours and 15 minutes. So the drag and riding, if you drag and ride it for 3 hours, which if you want to do that, I think that battery life is the least of your problems. But unfortunately, you cannot drag and ride on the Steam Deck for 4 hours straight. You only get to do it for 3.5 hours. But even if you wanted to do that, 3.5 hours is much longer than you get in other games. So the performance, I am blown away by how well this game performs. The second best thing, in my opinion, is just the control configurations on the Steam Deck. So, for some reason it's not showing up right now, but I have, this trackpad, this touchpad, which is kind of unfortunate for this demo that it's not showing up. But right here on my screen, I have 4 extra buttons that I've set up. And there's a million different configurations you can do. If you want to watch my other videos, you can see my goals for configurations, what I would ultimately like. But you can customize. So like my left trackpad is my mouse, and my right trackpad is this touch menu on the right. And I basically have split it into 4 buttons. You can split it up to something crazy like 9 buttons or something like that. You can have it be nested menus, virtual menus. You can do whatever you want with it. And even if you didn't do that, if you just kept the official controller keybinds for the Steam Deck and WoW, you have the 4 back buttons. So like my back button here is my favorite mount. So wherever I am, if I push my back button, boom, favorite mount. Now, when ConsolePort is installed, the A button, which in my opinion is the best real estate on the controller, on any controller, is by default jump. In World of Warcraft, you need to jump, but you don't need it to be the most important button that you press on all specs. So, it was important for me to get that off of A, but also put it somewhere that is really accessible to me. Guess what? Back trigger. Back trigger on my right finger, that's jump. That's plenty good. It's easily accessible. My finger never leaves it. I can jump whenever I want, and I've reclaimed A and I put it on Tiger Palm or in any class, the button that I'm spamming the most, that's going to be A. You can't do that on a regular controller or an Asus ROG Ally, or actually the ROG Ally does have a back button. But these back triggers, they're really good. The other thing that I haven't taken advantage of is the triggers on the Steam Deck are like dual channel or dual press. So like you can half press them and they do something, and you can full press them and they do something. Now I'm too much of a spaz to be able to handle that. I'm going to always mash it every time. But if you were, somebody who had better dexterity and stress control, you could. That's 2 more buttons right there. You get right off the rip. I have auto run as one of them. I have tab target as another one. Things that if you were playing with a controller, if you decided to play WoW with a controller through another medium, you wouldn't get the kind of functionality that you get with this. Now, there's also gyro control. I don't necessarily know how you would do gyro control with WoW, but I'm sure that there's some kind of clever way to make it really awesome. I would not be surprised if somebody has tested out gyro control and they figured out some insanely cool way to, make the Steam Deck have extra functionality. And of course, I get hit by that while I'm talking. Whoops, let's see this. Let's hit him with that thing. Now I'm using the touch menu here. Hit him with both of my on-use trinkets. Those are, very accessible. This thing's got a ton of health. Maybe I'll just abandon this thing as an example. Why is there so much health? Interesting. Well, I'm not going to fight you. You are, annoyingly high amount of HP. If I can get away and not get something else. But, yeah, the additional inputs on the Steam Deck in every single game that I've played are helpful, particularly the 4 back buttons. And in WoW, they're almost particularly helpful because there's so many buttons in WoW compared to other games. That's why, it's really a PC-only title. So you're sort of at a disadvantage when you try to play it on a console, if it ever got ported to a console. But a controller like the Steam Deck, I really don't feel disadvantaged. To be honest with you, the reason that I picked this Brewmaster is, on Brewmaster, I almost feel like it's easier for me on the Steam Deck than it is on the keyboard and mouse. Now, maybe my keyboard and mouse controls aren't 100% optimized, and it's better if I, worked on Brewmaster. Brewmaster's not my main. I play it a little bit because my main's a Mistweaver, but you know, there's so many keybinds on Brewmaster that this, you know, nested trigger thing really, really lends itself to a spec like that with a lot of keybinds. And that brings us into my number one. So, still on the Brewmaster, my number one feature is the ConsolePort add-on. I think that the official support for WoW on a controller, along with the ConsolePort add-on, is the only reason that Steam Deck is usable, that WoW is usable on the Steam Deck. Without this add-on, it would be annoying. You could definitely do it. You'd have, you know, the spell bars just like you would on a desktop, and you'd have to sort of fit all of those onto your UI somehow. And it would take up a lot more space, right? Like, this is just very elegant. Like, how this is set up, there's a lot more functionality that people take advantage of, especially people coming from Final Fantasy, because that game is designed for controllers, and there are a couple features like double tapping the triggers, like gives you an entirely new row of commands. People have implemented that on the Steam Deck and WoW. Now, I'm not fancy enough to do that. In my opinion, Brewmaster has the most keybinds that you'll need out of all the specs that I have played, and that's including healers. And I think that I have actually, like, look at my left and right trigger held. They're empty. I don't need any more keybinds. If I had played PvP and I had a ton of macros, maybe I would use those, but I'm not even using all the keybinds they gave me now. And this is on Brewmaster, and I didn't pick some kind of, you know, minimal key press build for this. ConsolePort is really good. I have had one or two problems when I first started, you know, as a learning curve, getting used to it, but now it is perfect. There is no problem at all. I don't, you know, log into WoW on the Steam Deck and make sure to check that ConsolePort isn't screwed up. Sometimes LVUI screws up, but ConsolePort has been rock solid. So it's my number one feature for WoW on the Steam Deck. I think that it enables everything, and yeah, shout out to those developers because it's great. I think that Blizzard should, you know, if this is something that's so good that Blizzard should, like, hire that person and implement it, and have them implement it into the core game. It's that crucial to playing on the Steam Deck. And if they were on it enough, they could actually port WoW to consoles, as long as they could figure out the chat problem, which I think, you know, one of my videos, I'm working on it now, is going to be to play around with a speech-to-text plugin on the Steam Deck, so that you can chat in WoW by just speaking into your Steam Deck, which is a huge missing feature. So yeah, be on the lookout for that, but hopefully you like this video, and that's my top 3